Listen up, I'm about to get dope.
What's going on? It's time for another episode of Too Hard for the Radio, and this one's the Motocast edition. And with me today to cover everything racing and more, we've got the great Walty Wanders in the house. Walty.
What's up, my friends? Thanks for having me on this show. Who's ready to do a little moto whistle blowing with us today?
Whoop, whoop, whoop. Blow that freaking whistle, man. I am ready. What a race this weekend. God, I love Unadilla. If I was going to go to one track, like I've done Washougal, I've done Hangtown more times than I care to do, and I could never go to that track again and be perfectly happy. Glen Helen, Fox Raceway. If I was going to choose one, I think it would have to be Unadilla. Maybe Southwick, just because I love the sand. But man, you look at that track and all the grass and the dark soil and just what a beautiful place.
Yeah, bro. I mean, it's an iconic spot. I've never been to Unadilla either, but it is super iconic. It's beautiful. It's natural. Pretty much it's all natural terrain. The grass. They only use it once a year for pro events. It's New York. It's a gnarly track. It's a bitchin' track. It's a unique track. We're lucky we still have it.
Absolutely. I was thinking that same thing. Like, I mean,
yeah.
Dude, and yesterday, not yesterday, Saturday, the track was so fast. I mean, when they were coming off of that sky shot, they're hammering fourth gear. I heard Freddie Noren say after the race that was the first time he ever got his bike into fourth gear on the track. But to be able to stand so close to those guys and watch them go so fast is something that you can't do in any other sport. I mean, the only way you're going to get that close to a NASCAR is if you're working in the pit crew. There's just
nothing it's funny,
like it.
But you should bring that up because one of the things that stands out for me back in the day, I always like to talk about back in the day when I went to work with Triple X after my stint with it was Porn Star Clothing. We sponsored Triple X, and I went to work with Triple X. I was super pumped to go to Triple X because as an ex-racer and a current fan and rider, it was really rad to start hitting races. So we're going to the opener at Glen Helen. It was my first pro race in many years. I think I went to maybe a couple supercrosses. I went to the Super Bowl motocross as a kid at the LA Coliseum. My dad took me probably really young. Really young kid. And then we started doing like some Anaheims and San Diego supercrosses, so I go to Glen Helen for the opener with Triple X, and I hadn't been to a pro national before, and I was freaked out by the straightaway. The fence line was right on the straightaway, like you were practically on the track.
Yeah.
And it was a straightaway full of ruts, similar like we saw in Unadilla, right? Just it seemed like so many ruts, knee deep. And to see these guys bonsai bar to bar through ruts that were just like, it wasn't just clean straight ruts. They were just all jacked up the bikes, dancing. And I was like almost scared to be that close to the action. I mean, so until you've gone to like Supercross is rad, it's a great spectator venue. But when you can get on the fence line and be that close to the action, especially in a high-speed straightaway full of ruts where it looks like they're out of control, they're just uncomfortable being uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
We've heard that,
We heard a lot of guys saying, I just wasn't willing to hang it out like these dudes were today. Oh,
no. And the funny thing is we've all ridden and the bike starts to chatter and dance and get fussy and we're cool with it, right? Especially if you see, like, let's say you're flying into a corner and there's a little, like, something you can bank off of and kind of, keep you from going down, like berm bashing and stuff.
Yeah.
But, even, you feel like you're a pro. But if you're watching the tape back, you look like a goon.
Yeah.
And so when you see these guys, until you've gone to a national, got right up on the fence line in a hairy part of the track and see what these guys contend with, you have like television doesn't do it justice, in my opinion.
Dude, and Glen Helen was such a gnarly track when they would groom it for the circuit, like for the race. When I was racing A class, I'd practice it at Glen Helen, once or twice a month. I didn't like driving out there as much. I liked Coulee Creek better. But it must have been '07 or '08. I was out there prepping for the national. Me and my buddy are out there, and they had this jump where you were coming like towards Mount Glen Helen. You're dropping down this hill, and on a 250F, you're hitting fifth gear and just hucking this freaking step up. That was, I don't even know how big it was. It was one of the biggest jumps I've ever done in my life. And I remember following Villapoto going over that jump and just in the air going, I'm not racing this year. Like, I'm not doing this jump every lap. There's just no way. If I don't do it, there's no point in me being out here. And if I'm not going to do it every lap, I'm going to get smoked. So I hung it up. I was like, I can't do it.
Yeah, that's another good point. Like, I remember the first time I was on a track, one of my local tracks, and the Team Honda showed up. Team Honda showed up to test or whatever, practice, and it was like way back in the day. I was probably 14 on my CR125, and Team Honda shows up, and it was like Johnny O and some other dudes hopped on. It was the Indian Dunes in Southern California near Magic Mountain. It was called the International track. They had a few, Shadow Glen. It was kind of like the outdoors. International was more of like a supercrossy track. So I'm over there trying to figure out the supercross track, and there's these really peaked out rhythm sections that are scary because you can't see the landing, right?
Yeah.
You just got to go. And so I'm trying to figure it out. And here comes like Johnny O or one of these Team Factory dudes, just like I'm like doubling through, and they went like triple or something, and I was like, I'm done. Like, these dudes are like next level.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure if I had, dedicated like every day to the craft, eventually with the coach and people like, okay, hit it in third. But, as a guy just out there trying to figure it out on my own. But yeah, and I've been on other tracks where, even the local pro comes around. You're just like, dude, that guy is flying.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's kind of neat when you're on a track and then you get smoked by a pro guy.
Oh, yeah, dude. It's something else. All right. Let's get into Unadilla here a little bit. So, first thing, we run 450s first, which I can't stand. I know they did it for TV. We've got to be able to get the interviews, and we need to be able to get Jet on TV, but it just drives me nuts. I remember hearing, I think it might have been Ricky saying, when we ran the 450s first back in the day, people loved that. So maybe we should do it again this year. I think I heard him bringing that up. It drives me nuts because you're supposed to be graduating to the harder class. Why give them the easier track? I get it. It's TV time, but it's kind of I guess it's kind of a good eye-opening experience for the 250 guys to see like, hey, this is what you're going to have to deal with coming up.
Yeah, but that's not why we did it.
Yeah.
We didn't do it because we're like, oh, benefit the 250 guys. We did it probably because Ricky wanted to do it. I mean, it's like Ricky's show, and unfortunately, it's kind of being blown apart. People are seeing through a lot of this stuff. Ricky walks around like his shit don't stink, and he deserves the accolades and the respect that he's getting. But unfortunately, for me personally, I just see a lot of cheerleading. I see a lot of just hype. I don't see a lot of authenticity. He just seems like I believe these playoffs might have been his idea. I believe putting the 450s first might have been his idea. But regardless of whose idea it was, he is so in Wall Street's pocket in terms of whoever the brass is, whoever's handing these directives down. Ricky is more than on board. He probably feels like he's part of it. He feels like he's an authority in the sport. He walks around and he expects, that's why a lot of even the pro guys like Anderson who watch my YouTube channel. I just saw Levi's Kitchen started following us, or his mom. A lot of the guys are, because we're saying the things that a lot of these pros see. With Ricky marches around like his shit don't stink, and I think that's one of the reasons we saw Jet potentially not like just cater to Ricky when Ricky gave him, came up to interview him on the gate.
That was great, dude. That was such a good catch. Like, I was watching that. I watched it through, and I just did not put it together. That was such a good catch, by the way. Like,
oh yeah,
just amazing.
I mean, that just captured everything I talk about.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'm not here to bash Ricky, dude. I'm not. He's Ricky. He's gonna be in our sport.
They're putting him on picture in picture. Could you believe that? Like, we're trying to watch a race, and then we're going to go battle box with Ricky Carmichael. It was wild.
I see through so much. I see through so every chance he gets, he's like, the SMX, the playoffs, the SMX, the playoffs, Monster Energy, playoff rounds. And he's a shameless promoter in terms of that. But that's fine. I mean, it is what it is. Ricky, I just believe like he kind of came into the industry after racing and tried to get acclimated to the television side of it. And so he bounced around from trackside to VIP tours to whatever getting Ricky up to speed to groom him to be the color commentator for the sport or whatever. But yeah, that was kind of satisfying on one hand because like Jet really like as Ricky, because Ricky expects everybody to bow down to him.
Absolutely.
And Jet did not. Jet did not. In fact, Jet did Ricky a pretty big disservice by really yawning and ignoring him and wrote him off, gave him nothing. Ricky's like, so Jet, what do you think? And Jet's like, yeah, bro, it's whatever.
Yeah,
like gave him
golf, cool.
Yeah, then Ricky tries to
Golf.
say, but I bet we're talking about golf. And he's like, yeah, okay, all right. And he tries to like laugh it off.
Yeah.
And Ricky I think it went over Ricky's head. Like Ricky didn't even realize what just happened.
The dude is so out of touch with reality. I wouldn't be surprised if he had no idea that there's all this hate for him. I mean, he's got to know to some extent that it's happening, but I don't really think he understands the full extent. He's like a politician. He's surrounded by yes men. Oh yeah, Ricky, you're so great. You're the GOAT. You're the best. We're going to get you in the booth. Hey, you know what? We'll put you out on the track. We'll let you walk around. You can kind of pick where you're going to go. We can give you your own we'll even put you on camera.
I believe what's going on, bro, is so Bubba came in and did a couple guest spots in the booth. And I believe the analytics show, or any polling or focus groups that have been done have shown Bubba is more popular in that role than Ricky. Now, Ricky is Ricky. So if he wants to be in that role, regardless of what the analytics, polling, or focus groups say, there's a good chance he could power play and make sure he's that guy. Now, with that being said, I believe what we're seeing now is because it's clear Bubba is more authentic. He's more colorful. He's got more personality. He's funner in that role than Ricky, because Ricky is a robot and it's not his fault. It's just his personality. And he deserves to be commentating. I'm fine with him being part. I don't really dig, though, when I see other people's jobs placed at risk, because Ricky's now got to be fit in. And I think we're seeing Bubba potentially, be able to slide into more of a key role. Unfortunately, Ricky's ego is probably not going to allow it to happen at the level of maybe it should. But because, I mean, in a perfect world, Ricky's got JT's job.
Yeah.
And Bubba's in the booth with Weege. End of story.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, and that's the money move. Like you said, that's the money move. And speaking of money moves, I wouldn't be surprised if Davey Coombs has got RC as just the schmoozer. When you're trying to get a kid to come and play at your college, high school, or college football, you're gonna send the coach with the best personality. We're gonna go out. We're gonna have dinner. We're gonna have beers. We're gonna talk about your kid. It's gonna be great. And I think, you got guys like Barsha or getting the call from Ricky. Hey, don't you want to come back and get ready for SMX playoffs? We could probably toss a little money your way to make it happen. But hey, look, man, these playoffs are important. We got to get you back to speed. We got to get you some points. We got to get you on the line. I think he got the call.
Yeah, no, I that was my thought too. And I think we had an episode where we talked about that.
Yeah.
Or at the Walty Wanders channel, and I mean, these riders, these pro riders that tapped out, boycotted, sidelined, got hurt, whatever, they came in with a pretty evaporated pro lineup to the outdoors. So it was kind of a big blow to the industry, because they're ushering in this inaugural season of playoffs. And so then we started seeing all of a sudden people crossing the picket line. And unless there's financial gain, you don't risk your life coming to get smoked by Jet unless you're getting paid to do it. You're not doing it for fun. Nobody wants to go get embarrassed by Jet unless you're getting paid to do it. And I get it, if you need these points, like you could get the call, like, hey, dude, listen, like you just said, hey, we need to get you a few points so when it comes to playoffs, you don't have to race LCQs, and we'll throw you a little money to do it because there's a lot. The industries really wants to promote this component. So we've definitely been seeing that because like you said, and so whether that's true or not, the truth is usually somewhere in the middle. I mean, if these guys want to race playoffs, they need to come in and race, do a few races and get the points. So yeah, it's a really good point.
I thought it was also interesting that Colt Nichols didn't show up this week. He showed up, he got some points, he put on a good showing, he got himself a ride, and he said, fuck this. And he stayed home.
Well, same with Kenny.
Yeah.
Where's Kenny?
Yeah.
Kenny earned his points, he's out. Kenny's got an agent. Even Colt's got an agent, even though his star has been absolutely handicapped. But Kenny's got an agent, and they're in contact with the organization, letting them know this. If you want Kenny to do any more outdoors this year, this is our price to come do one.
Pay up.
And it's a big price tag. Why? Because it's Kenny Boy Roxon. His star power, even though he can't beat Jet, is still as big as Jet's. And which I think we should segue into the next elephant
absolutely
in the room, which is there's so many to tackle. But one of the ones, so we see Ricky and the industry doing their best to sugarcoat a season that's being absolutely dominated by one rider in an evaporated field, and the people that come back are coming back from injury, and even if fully healthy, probably don't have anything from Jet. And that made me a little bit, it made me laugh a little bit when I heard this was the best race. If this was the best race of the year, this was the crappiest season in history.
Yeah.
Because all I saw is Jet come out with the pressure of a championship, and even with that added pressure, which was probably part of the yawning that he's feeling, that's pressure, the nerves, what's going on around you, it's causing that. But the fact that this was the best moto we've seen here, because Chase actually stayed with them and then bobbled when he got close to him. Yeah. He bobbled when he didn't drive it in on the kid. Even had Chase made the pass. If this was the best moto of the year, because Chase actually put a wheel in on him, which Jet was like, Jet would have passed him back in a hot second. Nobody's got anything for Jet. And speaking of that, we see Jet and his family. Now there's a little feud going on, because we've called it, maybe created it, with Danger Boy. Danger Boy and Hunter are now basically getting into some lightweight. And the industry might be encouraging this, because I've talked about this before. You need rivalries on the track. You need some drama on the track. Now, just because they want it to be woke electric bikes, cookie cutter, bubblegum, watered down moto and mainstream and playoffs and BS, it ain't going to happen. They understand this is hardcore sport, extreme sports, and you need a little bit of that. But we're seeing some drama now unfold, and I believe the Lawrence brothers and that family themselves, they still feel like outsiders, and they're not from America. They're over here dominating the sport, but they're from Australia. And they're never going to feel like they're Americans. They're always going to feel like outsiders. And they've had to fight and claw their way a little bit to get here, that we've learned, and sacrifice like many families do with their kids. And Danger Boy hasn't. He's come in with the silver spoon in his mouth. But Danger is probably, because of his dad being a metal militia, somebody they wanted out of the sport and had to contend with a lot of the industry not wanting him there. They have stayed pretty true in terms of their colors. They haven't sold all the way out. They never will, because of the chemical makeup of that family, because of metal militia, and because the industry hated the metal militia, wanted them so far gone.
And that was a blessing in disguise. They were able to go out and create their own thing, and it changed culture. I mean, you can drive down to Southern California and still see flat-billed black hats, dicky shorts, black shirts. It's a look. The 909er look. I don't know if they're still 909ers anymore, but I mean, he made his own style. And yeah, man, it was a great thing. I really, really dug Hunter's his podium speech. What I think he essentially called Deegan a daddy's boy who doesn't have a mind of his own. He did it in a nicer way than that, but essentially that's what he was doing. And what a great move. I mean, that's gonna bug him.
Hunter slinged a little mud back, and he called it. He's actually right.
I think he is,
because Danger's always saying stuff you can tell. Because listen, here's the deal, and it's not Danger's fault necessarily. Listen, Danger grew up worshiping his dad. Who wouldn't? The dude was the gnarliest FMX star on the face of the planet, and he did it by being controversial. So now we're kind of got this hybrid version of a factory rider, something that Brian never was, but a little bit of a bad boy element to him. And even though they're about God, faith, family now, from what I've gathered, the intel I got, they're very much kind of like following it. Does that mean they're still? That doesn't mean they're, singing too loud, singing too loud in church or whatever. They're still the Deegans. They're, just because they have a little bit of that in it doesn't means it's changed who they were. You'll never change who you were. But you're absolutely right. Danger Boy definitely. His dad is his biggest coach and mentor. He's looked up to him his whole life. Hunter's dad wasn't an FMX star for the militia. He wasn't in the limelight. They didn't get that. They came up in a different way. There's no wrong way to come in. It's just they came in two polar opposite ways. And this makes for the perfect rivalry as a result. And in fact, I've said it since the beginning, this is in fact what we need. Danger Boy needs to give the middle finger to the industry the way his dad did. And they're trying to do that while staying within the corporate lanes that they have to within Star Racing Yamaha. They can't give the middle finger all the way, but they can be a little bad boy. But yeah, Hunter called it. He hit the nail on the head. And I thought it was refreshing too.
I had a lot of respect for what he said. And again, when he said, he kind of paraphrased Shaq's quote about, pressure's when you can't eat. This isn't pressure. And I thought that was great. And Hunter really comes off to me as a blue collar guy. He seems like he should be working on a construction crew somewhere, not racing a dirt bike. Jet's got a little bit more of that rock star. I'm going to kind of float through life. But Hunter, you just get this really gritty dude who is he's just putting that in the moto. He's putting in the time. He's had nothing but bad luck. And he's still just hammering. I'm excited to see him on the 450. I think he's over the 250 class. I think he's going out there and he's going, these guys are ready to kill each other for one position, and I'm not willing to do that. I'm here to win 450 championships, and I need to get out of this hazard class, essentially.
I think what I'm seeing potentially out of the Lawrences is so Hunter came in first. He was a talent, but he wasn't generational talent, but he was a talent. He showed some. And so, I think they covered it. It kind of made sense. It possibly in the broadcast, somebody touched on it. So Hunter kind of came in first. Jet was watching, and then so Jet was able to watch, observe, and then be able to benefit from Hunter already being in the machine, the Pro Moto machine. And then when his talent started to display itself, they already knew how to handle a lot of it because of sorry, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, we're good.
And so the what I'm seeing now, it'll be interesting how they bridge this gap, because I think they all know their role within that family, right? This is Jet. I think Jet, because I think there's a good chance they're a family, right? They're sharing this money. It's a pool of money. So Hunter's money isn't Hunter's money, and Jet's money is his money, and this endorsement. Now, it's possible there's some of that going on, but I think there's probably a company umbrella, the Lawrence Family LLC or whatever it is, and all that money could just be going in there. That's how
that'd be smart. That would
is.
Be very smart.
Yeah, I think there might be something like that. Now, when we get Hunter to the 450s, he's probably fine with that, because I would be fine with that, because if I knew, hey, man, I would love to be the fastest dude in the main role, but I'm cool with Jet being that, because as long as one of us is doing it and dominating, and we got the Hunter Family LLC, the money's all going into this pot that's benefiting the whole family, not just one, not just Jet, everybody. Then he's probably fine, because it'll be interesting when Honda. It'll be like Chase and Jet right now, where Chase went from being top dog to not top dog.
Yeah.
Well, is Hunter ready to come in and be a factory support rider? Now, the factory teams have always had two riders, your big star and your other guy. Your other guy, just to make sure you got
a bike out there.
two riders on the track, right? But you only have room for one star. You don't want two big stars. So I think, if Hunter was to come in and all of a sudden start beating Jet, we could have a problem potentially brewing there.
I don't think that he's going to come in and just start beating Jet right away. But I've heard other people's, I think Coach Rob's big on this. He's going to be better than Jet. And I don't see that happening. I would not be surprised at all if he wins a 450 title by the end of his career. Jet can get hurt. Things can happen.
Yeah.
Maybe he just has a really good year where he puts it together and he can win more than Jet does. If there's so much that went down in the 250 class this year, Justin Cooper could be leading the points right now. Hayden Deegan could be leading the points right now, or Hunter could have an enormous lead right now. But we're still fairly tight because shit happens, So I wouldn't be surprised at all if Hunter nails down a title.
I believe there's a few scenarios. One would be Honda likes the package that they get from the Lawrence brothers from a marketing standpoint. We want these Lawrence brothers together. They're family. They're wholesome. They're blue collar. We like this. We want them both. As long as they know their position, Jet's the star, Hunter's, like, we could own the industry with these two brothers, first and second. It would be like Ricky, Bobby, and Cal, right? Like shake and bake. Like that could just be them. I think Honda, from one aspect, we need to keep them together. This is a great feel-good story. The pit presence is insane. Jet's the big star. Hunter's the big brother, the supporting cast, blah, blah, blah. Now, if some factory team comes along and offers some massive payday,
that's what I was just going to say, that
money, then maybe the conversation changes. But I believe at this point, Honda's doing their best to keep the brothers, keep them both, just have Jet be the main guy, and Hunter okay with not being the main guy. What I'm seeing so far is Hunter is perfectly fine from not being the main guy, because if Jet wins, he wins too.
But I could also see, like, he gets second place, 3 years in a row, and then he gets a call from Star Yamaha and says, "Hey, we got a hot bike here for you." And I could see something like that happen. Yeah, or a big payday. Either way.
It would have to be the big payday. I mean, at one point, I guess you're right, because it could be like, okay, like, I mean, things change. Money is usually what changes stuff for people. But at some point when it's like, okay, it's not about the money anymore. It's like with Kenny, it's not about the money. I got enough money to retire on now. Now it's about not getting killed or injured or paralyzed or whatever. And so but if you're still ultra competitive and you haven't had the big injury yet, you're still willing to go out there and push the limits, not because of the money, because of the competitive nature in which you live. You're competitive still. Like, I want to be the champ. Like, I want to be the guy. Until you've got the big injury, usually it doesn't put the fear of God into you, so to speak, until you've got the big injury.
I thought I was invincible. Even when I was in the hospital, a month in, I still was just treating this like any normal injury on a dirt bike. I'll be fine. The doctors are going to patch me up. I'll be back on a pole next week. I'll be back on a bike in a couple of months. Finally I had 2 surgeries 2 days in a row, and my burn doctor came in and said, "This is beyond what we can do, and we need to bring in a plastic surgeon." And at that point, I kind of realized that I was mortal. And it just sucked. It was like, holy crap, this is really bad. They can't fix me, and I don't know what I'm going to do. So that could totally happen.
It's a horrible thing to go through, and
it builds character. And if you can
It
get
does. No,
back,
you know,
if you
like
can
I
get
always
back on
say
the
on
bike, you'll be a better person for it if your body still works. You know, like I do not doubt for a second that AC is a much better man today than he would have been without all the injuries. But all of that character can't help his wrist stop from going
It's
numb,
hard, dude.
you
I
know?
mean, it's hard. Like I've been through some pretty big challenges in life, and I don't regret them now. But I certainly, don't want to have to go through it again
Oh
because of
no.
the character building, the appreciation maybe that I have for life. I know other amputees, some are still stuck. I got one of my best friends. He's paralyzed in a wheelchair, and he's pissed. And
Yeah.
then I got another friend who lost his leg. They tried to save it for years and years and years, and it just would get infected and jacked up. His quality of life sucked, and they finally
Yeah.
said, "Just amputate things." Like I
That's
should
what
have done
happened to
that a
my
long
hand.
time ago.
That's what
Should have done
happened
it
to
a
my
long
hand.
time ago. As
Yeah.
my quality of life improved, as soon as I just stopped messing with this limb, trying to
Yeah.
save it, I just let it go. So it's one of those things. But like the AC scenario, that's a good one too, because see, I think what happens is he's been through an emotional roller coaster of a
Yeah.
different kind. His star was huge and then it faded. And he's now got to practice acceptance. And he's got to accept the fact he is not going to live up to the hype that he was supposed to live up to. And the mental anguish has clearly been significant for him. And I believe he's suffered from depression,
Oh
as
yeah.
we all do to some
Oh
level.
yeah.
We all are going to be depressed here and there. It's that clinical depression that can be a little tricky. And so he's turned to self-help books and things like that, which I've done myself. Practice a lot of higher thinking techniques in order to become a better person, not even to get out of depression, just because I want to crush it and kill it. And so I see some of that out of AC, but he's that's, I think, what we're seeing out of AC right now is, he's knows that he wants to be in the booth, and that's
Yeah.
why I started his YouTube channel. But I don't know if he's going to make it. I don't know if he's going to make it to the booth. First of all, never tell anybody your plans. And he should have kept that on the down low and just went ahead and did that and said it in private, not all publicly. I want to be in the booth. I
Yeah.
want to be in the booth.
Now
And
people are gunning for him.
well, yeah, at best, he's going to be maybe a spokesperson for a company or another channel. I don't
He
know
could be
if
a
he
team
will ever,
manager. I could see him being a team manager,
maybe if
something
it's
like
something
that.
like that, he'll
You
find
know?
a role within the
Sure.
industry, but I don't think he'll be an announcer.
Yeah. All right. So while we're on Team
But I
Kawasaki,
hope so because
yeah.
I hope so because that's what he wants to do, clearly.
So while we're on
So here I'm
Kawasaki's, I right away Moto 1 at 250 class. We've got 4 green bikes out front, and I'm thinking right off the bat, Kawasaki Pro Circuit found something on the weeks off. What do you think? Did they find something, or are their guys just starting to come around?
You mean with
the bike?
with Anderson?
No,
Anderson,
250 class. Sorry, Team Pro Circuit.
Oh,
all their guys were hole shotting. They're running up front. Are their guys just starting to come around with more race pace, or did they find something with the bike?
Yeah, no, I think the bike's always been good. I think it could be. I mean, that's a good question. I think possibly Unadilla caters to that bike if you've got extra horsepower, because you can open the bike up. I think for a lot of these riders, when the championship pressure is now off, you can ride more relaxed. And so, yeah, I mean, actually, I guess, I don't know. It's tough right now in both classes, because I think most of the field understands, like, it's pretty much the season's over.
Yeah.
You're almost either racing for your next year or your next contract, or just finish money, or whatever the case may be. But yeah, Pro Circuit did put a lot of bikes kind of up front where we used to always see them and expect to see them. Forkner, can't buy a break. He's kind of got the AC black cloud.
That was a great second moto for him, though. The second moto for him went great. I was happy to see that.
Yeah, because you know what I like about Forkner, and you see, that's just the thing as we are as human beings. A lot of times when we see people come in with all this hype and then they get arrogant, start flexing on social media, showing the money, we don't like that.
No.
But when somebody's humbled by having to come back the way maybe we've had to come back and take some blows, and do it publicly, like, you know, I feel bad now for Austin because, you know, that was an ugly crash that he had at A1. You know, he works really hard to get back on the gate just to have it evaporate. So it was
He
good
looks
to see a
good too. He
moto.
looks like he's in shape. He's athletic looking. A lot of not all these guys look athletic. He's got a nice athletic build to him. I think he could make some damage
I agree,
if he can
dude. He
keep it
looks
on two
like the
wheels.
type of dude you want to cheer for
Yeah.
too. You know, he's just like, he's got kind of this, not this chiseled good look. But kind of in a sense, and he's grown into his man body.
Yeah.
You know,
He
he's kind of
looks
turned
like a
into
man compared to the rest of the. Yeah, you put him next to Hayden Deegan and he's a man compared to a boy still. That's a great point.
And he seems like he has a pretty decent personality, at least what you can, you know, read between the lines in terms of what you see, you know, on interviews and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that he's working with Rhino. Was always one of my favorite riders. One of the best days I've ever had on the track. I was out at Quia Creek with my buddy Kelly Yancey. She was running a private motocross school for a couple kids, and she asked if I wanted to come out and be her riding dummy. She would, you know, send me through corners and point out what I did right and what I did wrong. And I'm like, oh, hell yeah, I get to go out to Quia Creek for the day. And Ryan Hughes and Danny Laporte showed up. Danny Laporte was testing FMF dual pipes on a Suzuki 450 that day, which was wild. Just one of the best days. Rhino is the freaking man. As a younger kid, like I was probably 20, maybe 19 at the time, and I'm like 6'3", and at the time I was like 155, 160 pounds. And everybody was always, you got to keep your weight down. You're too heavy. You're racing against these kids that are 130 pounds and they're just smoking you. So I was always afraid to put like a decent amount of weight on. I wanted to get up to like 165, 170, but I was afraid to go any further than that. And Rhino, he was just like, screw that, dude. Gain the freaking weight. Put on some muscle. You need to be able to wrestle this bike around before you get on a 450. And it was kind of like, oh, duh. This is one of the best pieces of advice I ever got.
Nowadays we've got body, muscle mass. Everything's down to a science. And Ryan Hughes is a little bit of a mad scientist. What I like about the guy is he really doesn't fit into the mold of the stereotypical moto guy. He's very salt of the earth, right? He looks like a hippie, a throwback guy. You know, Rhino Power supplements have done pretty well. He's had that for quite a while, and he used to just sponsor riders. He had I think a riding school, and a lot of pros like privateers would sign up to go do the Rhino Power riding school. One year when I had Motostar, I think like 2012 or so, I sponsored this rider, Eric Montrell. He's just some nobody, and we were scouting riders because we have this extra bike, 450, that we wanted to maybe see if we could get somebody to ride it and wrap it in Motostar graphics. And so Ryan Hughes called me, or I called him, to ask about a rider he had at his school and what he thought. And so I was on the phone with Rhino, first time I'd ever talked to him. And I said, hey, I'm with Motostar. I have a clothing line, and we want to put a bike on there just to get some extra marketing for the brand. And this Eric Montrell guy, what do you think? And he's like, yeah, you know, he's pretty good. And, you know, and he didn't really have, and my business partner at the time had already decided on this guy. But I tried to solicit Rhino because what I was doing back then with Motostar is I was doing co-branded clothing. Like I do Motostar Rock River prints, or Motostar ankle savers, or Motostar. I was targeting big riders too, like rider print clothing. And I tried to get Rhino Power, I think, to do a co-brand with Motostar. And well, I had him on the phone, and I wanted to do a percentage of sales. I think he just wanted straight up cash, but. Yeah. Anyway, I like the guy, and that's my only experience I've had personally with Rhino. And he was nice on the phone. He gave it to me straight in terms of the rider I was about to help. And you know, he said he had other riders he'd probably choose first over the guy. But you know, Rhino is a very salt of the earth, different, and he's very unorthodox. So I don't believe he's the type of guy like Nick Way. And Ace, you know, he's more of like, okay, like Nick Way fits the mold, the Johnny O. You just don't really, I think Rhino needs to concentrate more on Rhino Power supplements. But yeah, I would love to see like Austin all of a sudden do really well with Rhino as his personal coach. because I think, that would shake up the industry
It
and
would.
be kind of a middle finger to the industry. And I'm all about that.
I like the way Rhino was teaching how to ride. It makes a lot of sense to me. I never rode that way. I've watched a lot of his videos. You keep your hips out, your back straight. And I mean, he's essentially describing Jet Lawrence, to a T. And all right. And while we're on Jet, so now he's got the championship. What do you think about perfect season? I've gotten a little bit of shit because I've said that even though the class is decimated compared to last year, I still think his competition is probably better than Ricky had in 2002. I mean, in 2002, you had Tim Ferry. I don't remember who got third. Ezra Lusk, I think. And then your boy Kyle Lewis. I think Tim Ferry had like two national wins at that point in the 250, 450 class. We've got Sexton, who didn't race the whole season, but, he's a 450 supercross champion. We've got Ferrandis, who's a 450 motocross champion. And we've got a lot of guys who've won races. What do you think? Is this a harder perfect season than Ricky had in 02?
No. I mean, yes and no. It's just different era. But I don't know. I think I remember seeing Ricky lap the entire field at one point, and I haven't seen Jet lap the entire field. So
that's true.
Yeah, I
it's
think
a different type of racer, I guess. And maybe it's not. Maybe he just doesn't have the speed to do that.
I don't. I mean, I think that it's going to be hard because Ricky wasn't a rookie, I don't believe, when he had his perfect season. This will be the first time I think a rookie's gone for the perfect season. And so
came anywhere near it. Nobody's even came near it.
I just don't think we've seen Jet truly challenge. So he's riding. I think he's doing it. He's making it look easier than Ricky because his efficiency on the bike is he's just a more efficient rider than his skill set and style and nature. But in terms of, I mean, you would if you were a betting man, you would have to bet on perfect season.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, showing us everything.
And at this point, he wants it. I heard somebody ask him, would you rather have donations or a perfect season? He said, give me the perfect season. Put me in the record books.
Yeah, because I mean, Bubba and Ricky are the only riders to do that. So you want to join that group, and that will definitely cement your that will cement your accolades. Your place in history. So I would say, I mean, anything can happen. This is Moto. So we'll see what happens. If I was a bet man, of course I'm going to say perfect season. But Ferrandis, whether Jet, I think there was some nerves this last week, and only because it was championship weekend for him. Now that's done, maybe we see him just completely annihilate the field, or maybe we just see him, there's no extra bonus necessarily I'm sure there's some money involved somehow, but it's not in this contract. No contracts have extra money for perfect season that I'm aware of. But I'm sure there is some money somehow.
Maybe there will now.
Maybe there will be now. Like maybe Honda finds a way, or the industry, if you get the perfect season, this is, the incentives that come along with it. But it's nothing like the championship contract money that he just won. So it'll be fun to watch. I think that, we have to expect the perfect season. If we don't get one, it will be because Jet decided, or magically a Ferrandis or a Sexton just all of a sudden go beast mode, and the track's kind of catering to a style that caters to their riding style. But right now, the efficiency that we're seeing out of Jet, and I haven't seen them once uncomfortable. No. These guys are uncomfortable just trying to keep them in sight.
I think actually Unadilla Moto 1, that was probably the most uncomfortable we've seen him, and he still cruised to a victory. I heard him say on the podium that he had a bike issue, and then he couldn't go as fast as he wanted. And I go, well, we'll see what happens, we'll see what happens early on. And early on in the second moto, he just went blown by, and I went, well, Sexton, Ferrandis, you guys blew it. that was your moto. Moto 1, that was your moto. He had a bike issue. He wasn't that comfortable. And Sexton freaking blew it. If he'd have gave it a couple more corners, he might have been able to at least try and pass him. That it looked like he was almost just bonsai going for, I'm going to crash and screw it. You know, it
I
was,
think, like you said, he realized he was close enough. He saw the opening and then realized he probably shouldn't have taken it. He was afraid of putting him down. So he
Yeah.
sacrificed himself.
Which doesn't make a lot of sense, seeing as how he's going to KTM. I mean, I guess you don't want other teams to see that you don't give a shit when you're on your way out. But, you know, at the same time, go for it, man. I want to see you go for it. If you're going to show him a wheel, put him out of the rut. Don't mess around and pussyfoot it and try to sneak it in there on him. Push him outside.
They're at the same truck. They're probably halfway cordial with each other. He at this point, there wasn't anything to gain by putting him down, other than the fans might have gone ape shit, but maybe they would have got booed. You know?
Oh, he would have got booed for sure. I would have.
If
it was me, I'm still doing it. I don't care. You know, they'll get over it. That's the way I would used to think about it. You know, I'll take this kid out. He's parked 2 trucks down from us. Well, he'll get over it. You know.
Well, that's what I love. Like, and I'm bummed that Barsha didn't have a better race, because
me too. I like Barsha.
He's from the area, and I'm a Barsha fan because Barsha, he's, for me, he's the style rider I like, because he's gonna rub you. He's gonna ride you hard. I mean, this is an aggressive sport. It's not, as much as we have Ricky hyping golf and stuff like that. This is not golf. It's not a gentleman's sport. It's an asshole sport.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the realities of it. Yeah. I mean, at least on the track, like off the track, we can be, a sweetheart. But when you're on the track, that's the chance for your alter ego
go for
now to come out. Right. And it has to. So, like, for me, I like to see aggressive racing. I don't want to see takeout moves, like just T-boning people and cleaning them out. I mean, I do, but I don't. Like, I don't want to see that. Like, that's, something to expect out of the guy. But
I want it to, like, go to the point where they're going to get hurt and then back it off 30%. You know what I mean?
Well, I like when you hear riders say, like somebody's behind me, I know I got to ride different, because the guy ain't playing around. He might ride me wide. Like, I like having that guy on the track. I like the guy you got to watch for, and so I don't know. It's just the era I came up in, that was more common.
Yeah.
To see that kind of stuff when Pike starts this stuff, going WWF on Vince Freeze on the track. Like, you would never see that anymore. If you did, the rider would be 86th from racing, because we're so soft now.
We're not even seeing, like, dude, the tension between Rhino and Mike Brown in like 02, 03, dude, those guys freaking hated each other, and you had to keep those semis apart, because if you'd let them, they'd go rip each other's heads off in between motos.
Oh yeah, you remember? There's so many after races where you just the camera would follow. Not anymore. Follow the rider pissed off, going over to the other truck to confront the rider that rode them hard or dirty or crossed or whatever the case may be, talked about their girlfriend, whatever. Like, that's like it was super common. But we're trying to really change that. Ricky doesn't want that. Ricky wants this to be a mainstream sport with playoff rounds and mainstream. He wants money.
Let's bring in the penalty flags. Why don't we bring in penalty flags, and we'll start throwing yellow flags at these guys when they rub them up too high. Let's do a replay. Let's see. Did he hit him too hard or what? Was this a racing incident, or was he going a little too hard? Yeah, it's crazy. What do you think about Motocross to Nations? Who's going this year?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to get together on our next collaboration and talk about the nations, because
all right, next week it is.
Yeah. Let's do that, my brother. In fact, if it's okay, if we could stop the show here, we can pick it back up after next weekend's and go hard charge it full throttle.
Absolutely. And just
once again,
go ahead.
and
I cut you
throw
off.
people under the bus if we have to.
Absolutely.
Whistle blow, read between the lines, look between the cracks. Waters we're swimming in now, shark infested, in these Wall Street suits have to be stopped, my friend. They gotta be stopped because we can't let them take over the coolest sport on earth and water it down and sugarcoat it. Can't have that now, can we?
We cannot. This cannot stand. And just real quick before we get out of here, the way I'm going to set this show up is I'm going to label this one different, because I know moto guys are always, shut up, just talk about moto. We don't care about anything else, which is, fun, but not the right place to be. So I'm going to label these things separately so people can go straight to the Motocast, but start listening to the other podcasts too. Learn a little bit about the world around you. Walty, it's been a pleasure. We'll see you next week.
Romper room, kicking on Living Street, Mac Drake, full of the Hennessy. 18, making raps till I'm 80 though, and too hard for the fucking radio.